Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is really special because it is being sponsored by the Flute Center of New York. The Flute Center is the place to go if you're looking to purchase a flute, whether you are a total beginner or a professional. Going to the Flute Center of New York basically feels like being a kid in a candy shop, except for the candy is flutes and you're just a total flute nerd. When you go into the Flute Center, there is a huge wall and it's literally all filled with flutes. All the flutes. More flutes than you would know what to do with. So as you can tell, I'm pretty much obsessed with the Flute Center of New York, so I was so thrilled when they asked me to collaborate. My friends at the Flute Center have also given me a special code for all my viewers to use when shopping there, and it is KTFL. So you can either enter this code when checking out if you're shopping online or mention it in person. By using my code, you will get free shipping, an extended trial period. Instead of keeping the instruments you want to try for 7 days, you can keep them for 10 days. And third, if you decide to purchase an instrument, you will get an extended 18-month warranty. I'm super lucky to live here in New York, really close to the Flute Center, but if you don't live in New York, don't despair, you can shop online. So for today's video, the Flute Center has let me borrow 4 beautiful flutes that I will be using to demonstrate with. So let's get started. So when talking with my friends at the Flute Center, we both realized that we are often asked the same questions when it comes to buying flutes. Questions like, what's the difference between an offset and inline G? Split E? Huh? What's a B foot? C-sharp trill key? Do I need one of those? What the heck are soldered tone holes? Etc, etc. So what better way to answer these questions than to make a video for you guys? So over the course of this video and the next video, I will be attempting to answer these questions. So I have 3 classes of flutes here: beginner, intermediate or step up, and professional. And let me just say that these 3 names are basically so that the makers and the people who sell the flutes can classify them. Obviously, you don't have to have a professional flute to be a professional musician, just like if you have a professional flute, it doesn't necessarily make you a professional. So now that we've cleared that up, let's move on. So let's talk about offset G and inline G. First of all, what's the G key? The G key is the key which your 3rd finger on your left hand presses down. With a flute with an inline G, the G key is perfectly in line with the rest of the keys on the flute. A flute with an offset G has the G key out of line with the rest of the keys. For a long time, flutes with an inline G key were thought to be more professional, but that stereotype no longer exists. For many players, the offset G feels much more comfortable for the hand and the wrist, especially if you have tiny hands like me. For people with larger hands, the inline G may be more comfortable. However, it's really all a matter of personal preference. Basically, any beginner flute you find will have an offset G. Moving on, B foot and C foot. B and C referring to note names, and foot meaning foot joint or the end part of the flute. Beginner flutes will have a C foot. Intermediate through professional flutes normally come with a B foot, although some professional flutes may come with a C foot. On a flute with a C foot, the lowest note that you can play is C. On flutes with a B foot, the lowest note you can play is B. French keys and plateau keys, also known as open hole flutes and closed hole flutes. Flutes with French keys have venting holes in the A, G, F, E, and D keys. These venting holes come with plugs which can be inserted if the player wishes. Many players like to put a plug in their G or D key, especially if you have tiny hands like me and cannot reach the low B without one. The majority of intermediate and professional flutes have French keys. Student flutes have plateau keys. They are closed holed, which means they don't have these venting holes like the flutes with French keys. The advantage of a flute with French keys or an open-holed flute is that you can make use of some extended techniques and alternate fingerings. Split E mechanism. On a flute without a split E mechanism, when you play high E, the key below the G key, or the lower G key, right here, stays open. The combination of all of these keys that are venting or not being pressed down is what makes high E sometimes unstable. On a flute with a split E mechanism, when you play high E, the lower G key is closed. This key. However, the split E mechanism is a matter of personal preference. I've never had a flute with a split E, and when I've tried a flute with a split E, I haven't felt much difference. So there you have it, some of the many specs on the flute explained and hopefully demystified. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video in this two-part series. Also, I'll be sure to list the names and links to these flutes that I've used in this video below so that you guys can check them out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.